The history of Primera Flats Gang, origins, development, and evolution. Disclaimer, this content is presented purely for educational purposes. It does not promote, glorify, or encourage any form of illegal activity. All names, events, and organizations referenced are based on publicly available records and open source research. Viewer discretion is advised due to the sensitive nature of the subject matter. Origins in the Flats, early 20th century, 1940s. The origins of the Primera Flats gang trace back to the early 1900s in the Boyle Heights neighborhood of Los Angeles, specifically in an area once known as the Flats. Initially home to a predominantly Russian immigrant community, the Flats became a densely populated and economically challenged district. Social reformer Jacob Riis once described it as one of the worst slums in the United States. These difficult living conditions fostered the rise of various youth and social organizations as young residents sought belonging and identity amid hardship. A key landmark, La Purísima Catholic Church, became a central gathering point where local youths formed a social club named La Primera, Spanish for the First. This name directly referenced First Street in Boyle Heights, which would become the gang's territorial heart and namesake. The gang's name, Primera Flats, reflects this origin, with Primera meaning first in Spanish, symbolizing their roots on First Street in Boyle Heights. By the 1930s and 1940s, Boyle Heights had evolved into a multicultural yet impoverished area where informal youth groups like La Primera began transforming into structured street gangs. The conclusion of World War II accelerated this trend, setting the stage for Primera Flats' formal emergence as a gang firmly staking its claim to the area surrounding First Street and Mission Road. The Aliso Village era and formal gang formation, 1942-1950s. In the 1940s, much of the Flats was demolished to make way for the Aliso Village Public Housing Project, a federal effort to improve living conditions in the area. Aliso Village quickly became the epicenter of Latino gang culture in East Los Angeles, including the rise of the Primera Flats gang. By then, Primera Flats had consolidated control over the area surrounding First Street and Mission Road, establishing a strong foothold. During this period, the gang's identity was shaped by the social and economic struggles faced by Mexican-American families in Boyle Heights. By the mid-1950s, Primera Flats had become a more structured entity, solidifying influence not only within Aliso Village but across multiple East Side neighborhoods. Primera Flats also formed alliances with nearby gangs, notably Cuatro Flats, 4th Street Flats, and East LA Dukes 13, expanding their collective strength in East Los Angeles. By the late 1950s, Primera Flats began aligning with the Mexican Mafia, La M, the powerful prison-based organization that controlled many Sureño-affiliated street gangs throughout Southern California. This affiliation fundamentally shaped the gang's trajectory in the decades to follow. Neighborhood expansion and factional development, 1960s, 1980s. The 1960s through the 1980s saw Primera Flats grow significantly in size, influence, and territorial reach. Originally concentrated around the Aliso Village projects and First Street in Boyle Heights, the gang expanded its footprint as members and their families moved to different parts of Los Angeles, particularly South Central. Following these migrations, the gang developed a notable new faction known as the Primera Flats 23rd Street, PF23, located in South Central Los Angeles. PF23 occupies a barrio stretching roughly from San Pedro Street to Main Street, between 23rd and 25th Streets, with Trinity Park serving as a central social hub. This faction arose as a sequel to the original Boyle Heights gang and has operated with some independence, though both factions maintain close ties rooted in shared history and familial bonds. PF23 also developed a complex clique system with groups like the Baby Flips, BFS, PJS, PPL, PQS, Los Peewees, PWS, South Central Clan, SCK, Tiny Flips, TFS, TLS, Termites, TMS, and Wall Street Criminals, WSC, all names synonymous with the gang's identity and influence in South Central. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, PF23 expanded its reach, introducing new cliques like the Termites and Wall Street Criminals. As the Mexican Mafia's influence grew, Primera Flats paid tribute to La M, contributing portions of earnings from underground activities and influence within the broader criminal ecosystem. Despite the geographical distance between the original First Street faction and the 23rd Street faction, the two remain united as Carnalese, brothers, distinguishing Primera Flats from many other gangs through this emphasis on family and loyalty. Leadership and influence, the Mexican Mafia connection. Primera Flats' leadership started as an informal network of respected local figures, but became increasingly structured with its alliance to the Mexican Mafia. By the 1990s and 2000s, the Mexican Mafia's control over Primera Flats and similar Sureño gangs deepened, guiding their activities and enforcing discipline. Federal investigations in the 2010s revealed the extent of this relationship. Notably, a 2012 federal indictment exposed how Mexican Mafia members, such as Danny Roman, extorted illicit proceeds from gangs including Primera Flats, solidifying the prison gang's hold on local street operations. Notable events and turning points. Primera Flats' long history includes several pivotal moments that shaped both the gang and its community. 1940s Pachuco era, members of Primera Flats were part of the broader Pachuco subculture. Mexican-American youths characterized by distinctive zoot suits and strong cultural identity. Though less publicized than some East Side gangs like White Fence or 38th Street during the Sleepy Lagoon case and Zoot Suit riots, Primera Flats established itself as an enduring barrio presence. 1980s gang truces. During a period of intense violence in Boyle Heights, community leaders, including those at Dolores Mission Church and the UNO organization, brokered truces between rival gangs, including Primera Flats. These peace efforts, though fragile, temporarily reduced conflict, showing the potential for grassroots intervention. Early 1990s crackdowns. In November 1992, a fatal shooting at an abandoned Victorian house on Pennsylvania Avenue, used as a gang hangout, highlighted the escalating violence and social decay. After persistent neighborhood complaints, city officials demolished the property by December 1994, marking a symbolic victory against gang strongholds and foreshadowing future gang injunctions. 1990s demolition of Pico Aliso projects. The demolition of Aliso Village, now known as Pueblo del Sol projects, in 1999 under federal Hope 6 and redevelopment plans displaced many low-income families and fractured gang territory. While some predicted the gang's demise, Primera Flats adapted by regrouping in adjacent Boyle Heights neighborhoods along First Street, maintaining its cultural identity despite the geographic shift. The demolition also contributed to strengthening the 23rd Street faction in South Central. The 2000s gang wars in South LA, PF-23 engaged in a violent rivalry with the Ghetto Boys, GBZ, over control of Trinity Park and drug sales. The conflict escalated through the 1980s and 1990s, culminating in the tragic death of 8-year-old Anthony Ramirez in 2002. This event prompted the Mexican Mafia to intervene and broker a truce, with GBZ withdrawing from Trinity Park, ceding control to Primera Flats. 2005, alliance broken. The long-standing alliance between Primera Flats and Cuatro Flats dissolved when a Cuatro Flats member fatally shot a Primera Flats member. This single act of violence transformed allies into rivals, fueling ongoing tensions between the two gangs. Throughout these periods, law enforcement agencies intensified efforts to curb gang activity, deploying injunctions, raids, and community programs. Though violence decreased somewhat in later years, Primera Flats remained resilient and adaptable. Territory and neighborhood changes. Boyle Heights, East Side. Primera Flats' traditional stronghold centered in the Pueblo del Sol projects, formerly known as Aliso Village, Pico Aliso area around East First Street and South Mission Road, home to the Aliso Village projects. Post-demolition in 1999, members regrouped in adjacent neighborhoods toward Indiana and Lorena Streets, maintaining their roots in Boyle Heights despite gentrification and redevelopment. Over time, visible gang activity declined in Boyle Heights due to neighborhood changes, security measures, and demographic shifts. Many original members moved to suburbs or other areas, though ties to the gang's identity remain strong among dispersed members. South Los Angeles, 23rd Street area. The 23rd Street faction controlled territory near Trinity Park, spanning San Pedro to Main Streets and 23rd to 25th Streets. This area, historically a Latino and African American mix, was the scene of intense turf conflicts and gang wars, particularly with the Ghetto Boys. Urban renewal and law enforcement interventions gradually changed the landscape. While the PF-23 faction lost some dominance over time, it continues to claim identity and presence in this South Central pocket, facing rivalry from nearby gangs like 38th Street and Harpies. Alliances and rivalries over time. Primera Flats' complex network of alliances and rivalries reflects its evolving history. Alliances. Cuatro Flats, a former ally from Boyle Heights' 4th Street projects, this alliance ended bitterly in 2005 after a shooting incident. Sureño Coalition. As part of the broader Sureño network under the Mexican Mafia, Primera Flats maintains theoretical alliances with other Sureño gangs, sharing cultural markers such as the 13 identifier. Mexican Mafia. the primary overarching alliance and coordination while enforcing gang discipline. Rivalries. East Side gangs, the Mob Crew, TMC, Al Capone, East LA Dukes, Breed Street, Clarence Street Locos, CSL, East LA 13, and the First Street East Coast Crips were among the key rivals in Boyle Heights, often competing fiercely for territory and influence. South Central gangs, the Ghetto Boys GBZ, Street Saints, 22nd Street, 38th Street Gang, and Harpies have been principal adversaries in South LA, involved in ongoing turf disputes and confrontations. Quattro Flats. Since the 2005 incident, the former ally became a staunch rival, with tensions still evident in Boyle Heights. These rivalries and alliances reveal the fluid and often volatile nature of gang relations, where shifts in power and incidents can rapidly change the landscape. Cultural and media representations. Primera Flats' long-standing presence in Los Angeles has made it a subject of various cultural portrayals. News and documentaries. Local media have covered the gang over decades, including the 1990s NBC special Girls in Gangs, which featured young female members of Primera Flats. Profiles of former members who became community mediators, such as Mike Garcia, humanized the gang's multi-generational impact. Literature and academia. Sociological studies and memoirs, including Father Gregory Boyle's Tattoos on the Heart, examine the gang's community context. Books on housing projects and gang life reference Primera Flats as a significant part of Boyle Heights history. Music. Chicano rap artists like Midget Loco, affiliated with Primera Flats 23rd Street, have referenced the gang in lyrics and interviews, immortalizing its cultural identity. Film and television. While no mainstream films focus exclusively on Primera Flats, movies like American Me and Mi Vida Loca capture the environment and dynamics typical of East Side gangs, reflecting the social backdrop from which Primera Flats emerged. Sports connection. World champion boxer Sinisa. Estrada's father, Joe Estrada, was a former Primera Flats member who turned away from gang life. His support helped channel his daughter's talents into boxing, highlighting an inspiring narrative of transformation beyond the gang environment. Primera Flats today, legacy and continued influence. Today, Primera Flats persists as a recognized gang with active East Side and South Central factions. While law enforcement efforts and urban changes have diminished its overt presence, its legacy remains integral to Los Angeles gang history. Primera Flats exemplifies resilience and adaptation, maintaining a deep connection to its origins while navigating decades of social upheaval, redevelopment, and policing. Its affiliation with the Mexican Mafia underscores the layered complexity of gang networks and their ties to larger organizations. This history provides important sociological insight into how gangs develop in response to systemic inequality and community challenges. The story of Primera Flats is not one of glorification, but a factual narrative about the interplay of environment, identity, and survival within urban Los Angeles.